Hi, I'm Pete Davidson, and if you're like most people, you may be asking yourself, whoa, hey Pete, are you here to up my hydration game? And I'd be like, hey you, that's exactly right, with new Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. And you'd be like, okay, cool, but there's no way there's a higher pH, right? And I'd be like, there actually is! And you'd be like, that's rad, I hope there's electrolytes for taste too. And I'd be like, you're not gonna believe this! Elevate how you hydrate, and keep it smart with Smart Water Alkaline.
Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have a really good our 80th episode. It's a special. It's incredible. We started out, and when did we start taping? Back in December of last year, right? About a year ago.
Yeah.
I think we started.
Fritz Diedel Ice Rink.
Yeah, and rip to the Fritz Diedel Ice Rink. For anyone in North Jersey or Rockland County or even the New York area, they know that rink. It's well, that's where we met. It holds a special place in my heart, Tom.
That's where we started dating.
Well, yes, man dating. And that Fritz Diedel was an old barn built in the 50s to be a skating rink. It somehow became a hockey rink, but it was very unique in that there were no boards.
No benches, no boards.
No benches, no scoreboard. You went down the road. That's it. There's no corners. So the corners were just, if the puck went in the corner, it's like, okay, go get it. The way to get on the rink was through those galley doors.
Right. And you go right into the snack bar right there.
That's it. You get checked hard enough, you're ordering fries. But yeah, we met there at a Ranger Learn to Play event. Or no, I think it was like just a holiday thing Fritz Diedel was doing.
You know, he started begging me, like grabbing on my leg and begging me to do the podcast. It was
like that. Yeah, it was like what's his name? Jeff Van Gundy. Well, he grabbed Alonzo Mooney right in that fight. But just pulling him like a.
That was funny. Oh, that was funny.
No, but we decided we talked and you were doing a couple things, and I said I was in media, and you said, oh, that's great. Let's get on call tomorrow, which we did. Yeah. And I said I like what you're doing, but I think you could do it a little differently. And
yeah, you went sort of up there, but when you said that to me first, so you know how stubborn I am. It's like, what are you talking about?
Fuck this guy. Yeah. What does he do?
Now all of a sudden you got the microphones a little bit, and I forget. Oh, okay, now I see.
Yeah, and you've done 80 shows since with some really excellent guests, some really great stories, some funny stories, some sad stories. Yeah. We learned all about Tom.
Yeah, many times over.
And the fans love that. Barry Shelley, I know in particular, loves the Tom Laidlaw stories.
How many, who's the funniest guy you think we had on?
Vakota was really good.
Yeah, Grant Marshall was good too.
Bear Marshall was good.
Yeah. The combination of Vakota and Beeline was good too.
Great. Beeline was funny too. And then there were guys like Luke Robitaille was just infectious with his positivity. He was just, and also Kelly Rudy was a great guest too.
Yeah.
Pierre
LaRouche was good. Yeah.
There you go. Our first guest, Pierre LaRouche, was excellent. He was the very first episode we put out, number 1. Yeah. And he was great. He was real fun.
Jim Kite was fantastic too.
Jim Kite was a great guest.
So people don't know, we probably discussed this, but he's totally deaf. And for us to do the show, like normally we're told to kiss the mic. So I've got the mic up high like that. For him though, I had to lower the mic so he could lip read.
Yeah.
I didn't know how bad his hearing loss was. I knew he had a hearing problem. But to watch him play, you just wouldn't know. I remember he talked about how his mother really made it that, okay, you're not going to have a handicap here. You're not going to fall back on the shoe.
No, just get out there. It helps that he's also 6'5" and could move the puck.
That's true.
And could throw. That guy he could fight. And he told that great story about Dave Brown, how he was up, for weeks before the rematch with Brown, and he was terrified that Brown wouldn't fight him because his mom was there. So that's pretty awesome.
That is funny too. You think we like guys, you're just scared to death of these guys, right? They go, I can't, my mother's sure.
Dave Brown, as we know, you told the story several times how he hated you when you were at the Rangers. And then when you got to LA, he was like, hey, what's up, bud?
Yeah, I know. We slid up and he said hello to me. Hey, Tom, how you doing? How's LA?
It must have been a piano off your chest, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. But
was
it's
that
funny too. You know, when you get to meet these guys that you played against, and they're tough guys, you realize, I mean, they're just great guys, and they just have a job to do out there.
Yeah, and some of that job is pounding people. Others is, scoring goals. In your case, it was getting the puck out of the zone, moving it to somebody else, and covering in front of your net.
Quickly. Yeah,
Well
the
done.
that was good, wasn't he? Like, yeah, really impressive. Like the way he conducted business. Remember, he talked about how he wanted the people working with the Kings to really change the way they talk to people.
Yeah.
To really be more polite and professional.
Amazing. And they did. And look at that culture. And they threw 2 cups now, and they were laughing stock. No offense till Gretzky got there, but they still hadn't won.
Well, you know what? We actually had a good team. It's just that we just couldn't get over the hump, and like, nobody's coming to the building either. It's a pretty empty building.
Well, once Wayne got there, then it went crazy.
Oh yeah, man! It was. I'll never forget. He got there the first game, and they had Roy Orbison was singing the national anthem, and I was standing on the blue line beside Paul Fenton, and I'm a big country fan, so Roy Orbison, I knew who he was. I thought he was a big superstar. Paul Fenton goes, "Who is that?" Roy Orbison, you goof.
I'm sure you got to know everybody at that point, though, especially the ones that come in through those games. And again, we talked about this a lot of times with that Kings team, but it was real rock star mentality. I mean, there should be, maybe we should produce a documentary on that team, because hockey hadn't seen anything like that. Probably hasn't since,
I know I've told the story, but I think it's worth repeating on the Edia show that I'll never forget. We went into Montreal late in the first season. So we're right there. We're two in the league, and Montreal, I think, had the best team in the league. Saturday night game, Hockey Night Canada, I had Ray Scampanello, linesman. I'm on the bench, getting ready to start a game. He's the blue line. He leans over to me. Tommy, this is unbelievable. Yeah. Like he'd done games for 20 years. He's still fired up.
Yeah, it's great to see you and see how you're fired up right now, talking about it 30 years later. And like we watching it, was like, that was the coolest thing. It was, you guys are almost like the Lakers of
yeah, we really were. And everywhere we went, it was, I remember our first training camp we had up in Victoria. We'd go out and the guys all go together, the families all summer long. So we're going out and have a few beers. It was just, I've never been around Wayne before in a social setting like that. And it was just, I felt bad for him, actually. He just couldn't move. Zoom.
Yeah. And speaking of Wayne, we're coming up to 100 soon. So keep your eyes peeled for what we do at the end here. Yeah. But we've had some great guests. We had a lot of Flyers on the show too. We had Flyer legends, right?
Yeah.
Brian Propp, your buddy, we went down to his event. We had Fran Bernie Pront. We didn't think we should have gone on the boat ride with him.
Yes. He was good too. He was great. I didn't realize he was so positive and like disciplined and everything too, like the positivity. So it's good.
But yeah, like Robitaille, his positivity was infectious too. And you can see why he's someone everybody wants to be around, because he's just so freaking positive,
And he actually really is a great guy too. I've asked him, I try not to ask him for too much stuff, but if somebody's going out to LA, they want to go to the game, he's always helpful. In fact, one time I had a kid that I coached, was going out there with his buddy, and Luke had him up to the suite, to the owner's suite.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Kids better not move around up there.
So you should. So you got to get out to LA, man. You got to go out to, or I'll go out to LA and we'll go see a Kings game.
Yeah, definitely.
And Bernie Perrault was great too. He invited us to his, and you do a lot of these shows, and people say things like, "Oh, let's get together, let's hang out."
Yeah, I know.
And you throw it out there like, "Oh, they're just saying that," But then his wife, who was great, his wife Jenny, was like, "Okay, so when are you guys coming?"
She's a very intelligent person. She's got great taste too. Like on the show, she looked and said, "Wow, who is that handsome guy?" When she looked at me, like I really admire her for her taste.
I think she meant Bernie, but did she mean you?
Yeah, no question. We don't. I mean, if there's 10 people in the room, and somebody says he's good looking, it's automatically me.
You're gonna take that W every time.
Oh, absolutely, no question. I do it with a zeal too. Like I just don't go halfway. Like I go right after. I grab it.
Go right there.
Yeah.
We had some great guests too, some non-hockey player guests. We had Ken Hitchcock recently in the Hall of Fame. We had.
Okay, we're gonna back up on him for a second. Sorry, here we go. So he was backing up Mike Babcock. Babcock had just gotten the job in Columbus. He said, "Oh no, he's changed." And I like it, so I got to be careful. I shouldn't be talking about his back, but I think I was very honest with him about my criticism too. And you tell he accepted it well and talked about how, he changed. He knew he had to be better with players. And then all of a sudden, you talk about Babcock too, and then Babcock ended up getting fired again. So
I think he was hopeful that Babcock had turned a new leaf, but
yeah.
Apparently he hadn't. So,
and I think there's a respect there because he is a good coach. Babcock really does know how to coach. He's a good hockey coach. Dallas Drake talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh no! One of the funniest one too. So he bounced around here. Morris Lukowitz.
He's great.
Remember a couple of times there where I tried to say, hey, "Okay, let's go on to this thing." No, Tommy, I want to finish the story.
Yeah, and he did.
Yeah, there was no stopping him.
Tenacious in the corner. You got to respect that.
Totally, no stopping him.
We had some non-hockey shows. We had Ricky McGuire of Subway Creatures, who was great. You guys are supposed to go hang out in some cool places in New York, some secret places. And we also had Rob Burnett, the executive producer of The Late Show with David Letterman, who we're going to go to his Burnett Hockey League in February and check out his outdoor games in Greenwich. Yeah. And we had Malik Garvin from Hockey in Harlem, a great organization that does wonderful things.
Bruce McNall.
Bruce McNall was excellent. Yeah. Neil Smith was another one.
That was a good one, but Neil Smith, right? A lot of stuff that we didn't hear before about after winning the '94 Cup and why he didn't keep getting the jobs and all that kind of stuff.
And his disdain for Mike Keenan, and I'm sure it's mutual, is evident, and he had no bones about bringing that up. You know,
Wouldn't it be funny to get Mike Keenan on the show? I mean,
let's do it. I reached out to him, and it's funny because we get contacts, and I reach out to all these guys, and I reached out to Mike and I said, "Hey, Mike, I'd love to get you on the show." And I got a text back right away. He's like, "Do you mean Keenan?" And he's like, "That old dog," and he's like, "This is not his number, but it'd be great to hear him on your show."
Oh, is that right?
So yeah. You had a lot of your ex-clients, Brian Boucher, fired. Yep. Brian Berard did not fire you, right?
Hey, right at the very end, there was really no jobs left over here. So there was an agent over in Russia that I really didn't have connections there.
Gotcha. With John O'Gronick, you had him in your stable at one point, right?
Yeah, John O'Gronick, Johnny O. What a gentleman he is too, right? He's got that classy guy, still playing hockey.
400 goals in the NHL.
Ludwig was good too. Craig Ludwig was good.
Ludwig was great. Speaking of classy guys, you had Ulf Nielsen, and we had Will Kachuk, two classy Rangers.
Yes, Will Kachuk was good too. Talking about how he was not too happy with some of his teammates at the finals in '79.
The young one.
I had not heard that before. Yeah.
We had your infamous Tim and Tom partner, Tim Muddy Waters, who was great.
Okay, yeah, we had Robert Picard on too, and you tried to stir the pot pretty good that day.
We had two guys you fought. Robert Picard, who you didn't really fight, you suckered him, and we had Brad Smith. And those are, the two Laidlaw W. Kudos on to you, man.
Yeah, the Picard one was fun. Yeah, he didn't have much of a choice. That was when either I was going to play in the NHL or he was going down or I was going to the minors. So he went down.
Classy guy, though. He was like, "No, it's all good. It's hockey." And he talked.
Yeah, I know.
Then he had a solid career.
Yeah.
Nope, he wouldn't take the gate. And he was an all-star. We had the head of the Alumni Association, Glenn Healy, who told some great stories.
You know what? Just ask him one question, he'll go for 45 minutes.
Listen, that's what we need.
Yeah,
that's what we want. So,
yeah, but there's no time for me to talk.
That's funny. Like when you and I do this banter back and forth, you're great, and we exchange ideas, and we talk, and I talk, and you talk, and we throw this in. When there's a guest and if I jump in, you're like, okay, on to the next thing. You roll right through it. So,
isn't that the theme with me though? I just steamroll through it.
Tom the Steamroller Laidlaw. I want to just highlight some. We have a lot of listeners, and we're blessed to have that. And I think it's wonderful that people listen to our show, and I'm very thankful for it. But we've had listeners from pretty much in every state in the country and in Canada, and we've had countries all over the world. We've had the U.S., of course, Canada. We've had United Kingdom, Finland, Spain, Romania, Hungary, Bosnia, Japan, Singapore, China.
Hong Kong.
So Hong Kong. Yeah, you think that's Barry though, right? Barry Beck, which was another great episode too.
Yeah. Good to see Barry getting it. He was not doing well. He talked about it publicly. When I saw him at the Rangers golf tournament, 2 years ago, he was not doing very well. But he's got the Rangers played, and the alumni really helped him a lot. He himself obviously too, so he's doing much better now.
So I just want to shout, I want to thank, and he is. I want to thank our listeners in Hong Kong, but also in Romania, Spain, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, Germany, Cuba. Wow, Cuba.
We're speaking of Finland, we're having Ray Slane come on, aren't we?
He's coming on the show too. So is Eddie Belfour. We got some great guests coming out. And to our listeners in Vietnam, thank you for listening, and in Ireland as well. And thank you. Your accent must have got them to listen to the show, Tom. I'm sure.
Yes, we bonnie lads, we bonnie
Scottish. But anyway,
universal.
Again, we want to thank our listeners for being on board with us and for going on the journey. And we want to talk a little bit about hockey because it's been kind of a great season so far for the New York Rangers, and a lot of our listeners are Ranger fans. Right? What are your thoughts on the club, Tom?
Well, I thought Chris Drury did a great job kind of retooling the team. Bringing in Jonathan Quick was a huge move. And it was interesting talking to Luke Robitaille. When he had Jonathan Quick in L.A. for his whole career, and he said that's the best leader he's ever seen, which I was surprised by. I think that makes a difference in the locker room. I think that's what Chris Drury really went for, try to change the culture a little bit in the locker room. And he certainly did. He signed a bunch of older guys, a few older guys to 1-year deals. So now they're hungry. They want to keep their careers going. It's not much of a risk. They're all like an 850. So not a big chunk of the cap heating up. But I think the part of the team was they just needed to mature a little bit. They had a lot of young kids playing a key role. And they really did. So I told you I went to an event with that Braden Schneider. And what an impressive young man as a person. I think very often, especially in hockey, you see those character guys. They typically, if they're skilled players, then that character part of the personality comes out in the game too. So the future is fantastic for them. Shesterkin had a little bit of a rough go there, but he's back, I think, playing his hockey. So listen, they're as good as anybody else in the National Hockey League. So they're in that group of probably 8 to 10 teams that have a chance to win the cup.
Oh, for sure. And Drew did great, a couple of things you mentioned, quick and being a leader. I wasn't aware that he was the leader like that, but apparently he is. And, people were really down on him in the preseason. He didn't play great. He was older. And I think he's 9-1 now, right? It's incredible for them.
Yeah, with an older guy like that, preseason means nothing. He's just trying to get himself ready. He's not worried about results necessarily because it doesn't mean anything. He's done enough. He's won 2 Stanley Cups with the Kings already, so just getting himself ready for the season. So he's obviously a tough enough kid to know, okay, people are going to say bad things, but I don't care. I'm getting myself ready.
And a huge signing that gets kind of overlooked was Nick Bonino.
Yeah,
who's a Stanley Cup winner. Yeah, great center, fourth line center, really going to face off, and that's the key. Trocheck's taking his game to another level with the Rangers. He's the leading face-off guy in the league.
But the Rangers didn't know that. I didn't know that. There's another highlight from the show too. How many times we should go back? How many times have I said that?
If anyone's listening, want to tell us, please let us know how many times Tom says, "Oh, I didn't know that."
And so Tom's got this 100%. So I asked her a question. He goes,
"Stop saying it." I stopped saying it.
Come on, that's part of who you are.
No, I'm going to come up with something else. But Trocheck is the top face-off guy in the league, and that's huge because, as you know, possession is enormous because you're not chasing down the puck. You have the puck. And that with, even though they've had injuries to Hedel and Kakko, they've still been able to plug those holes. Willie Cooley has been a solid rookie for them.
Yeah. And they lost Fox for a while too, and they had to overcome that. So
they did. And Gustafsson stepped into that opening, and they've played really well. If you're a Ranger fan, you have to be very excited.
I love Trouba too. He spanks the people out there, man. He's good.
Yeah, and there was a good call the other night, the most recent game, the Buffalo game. I think it was Eric Johnson. There was someone threw a big hit. Cooley threw a big hit, and Johnson started a fight, and he got the instigator.
Good.
And that's what they should do more, because with clean hits like Trouba hits, when they're clean, and the one Cooley threw, if you start a fight because of a clean hit, you should get the instigator penalty.
And that's a new trend within the last 5 years. That didn't have to happen. That didn't happen like that. And we talked about this too. If it was a big hit, we would get retribution of that player, but we would wait, talk to him all game long, say we're coming.
Right.
Wait for the right moment when the game's out of hand, then you take it.
Yeah, someone throws a big hit now, they're dropping the gloves right away.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. I'm surprised coaches let that happen too. I thought, to me, if I'm coaching, I would make that more of a point of reference and say, listen, guys, no, that's a bad penalty. Wait. It's better to wait. Let that guy wait all game long, know that it's coming from somebody.
For sure. Yeah, you get his number. We remember saying that we were playing. Oh, I got his number. It's coming.
Yeah. And a new nickname for you to the show, Smitty.
Was my nickname growing up playing hockey.
Yeah, so we're getting that going again. Smitty.
And anyone who I played hockey with will call me that, but I hated it because I hated Billy Smith. And he was the Islander goalie, and that was no good. But I was Smitty for a long time. I could take it again. That's fine.
All right. Yeah. Smitty. We're not referring to Smitty for Billy Smith.
No, or like Brad Smith, Motor. Well, his nickname is Motor. But as mentioning the Islanders and Billy Smith, their team they've picked it up and they're playing really well this season.
Yeah.
And if you're an Islander fan,
Pittsburgh's still struggling, right? They had a hard time with power play.
The Devils are also struggling a little bit too.
That's a surprise. That's probably the biggest surprise in the league, I think.
Well, I think the biggest surprise in the league is the Philadelphia Flyers.
In a good way, yeah.
In a very good way. Yeah, they're playing. Tortorella's got him playing great hockey.
He does that. It just wears thin on guys. I admire him. He gets most out of his players, but after a while, especially the culture is different now. The players kind of tune him out after a while. They get tired of playing for him.
Yeah, but he did a great thing. He had that kid who was battling cancer on the bench.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't care. He's like, anything you guys deal with is nothing compared to this kid. So if this inconveniences anybody, I don't care. Or, this kid's getting a day. And that was kind of awesome.
Yeah, he's good at that, really building character in those ways. I remember for the alumni, we had a meeting. We had him in while I was coaching, and he talked about, the old days we're drinking beer. He says, yeah, I wish the guys would do that more now. He doesn't want to go get drunk and promote cricket, but it's that whole team bonding thing.
Well, that's so important, and that's why anyone who's coached youth hockey knows the most important part is practices, X's and O's, games. But when they go away and they're in a hotel playing mini sticks and running around like nuts, that's when they're bonding, and that's when the kids. And that's the same thing with you guys when you get into your shenanigans on the road. Moving furniture into the hallway and goofing around with each other and going to number 5 Orange. That's when you guys bonded.
I know. Oh, it's funny. So, I think you told this to Donald Fair, who runs the NHL Player Association now. Obviously, was with baseball before, and they had a thing in there where they negotiated the CBA where the guys could all have their own single room.
Right. And
it had never been like that in National Hockey League before. You always had to have a roommate, unless you negotiate that on your own in your own contract. And I told them, I said, you're going to ruin the culture of the game.
Yeah.
Part of the fun and the camaraderie is having a roommate on the road.
Absolutely, and I'm surprised they got rid of that because it's such a. I know what they're doing, but it's you're right. That's such an opportunity to just bond with somebody, have a room.
Yeah.
And do things. But hopefully these guys still do the dinners and they still go out and they still,
Yeah, they don't as much. I mean, part of it, you think they get some guys on the team's making like $10-12 million, and the other guy's making $850,000, which is still a lot of money. But when you're going out to a restaurant, like these guys that are making the $10-12 million are flying around with private jets, going to all the fancy restaurants.
Yeah, but hold on, Tom. When you were on the Kings, you were making $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay, what was Wayne making? About
$4 million.
So that's a lot more than that's the same kind of disparity,
But again, they had just different culture. Like part of the culture was that bonding. I don't think that's there now. It's not that these guys are bad guys and not team players, but I don't think the bonding means as much to them as it did for us back then.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't. I mean, yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just different. It's like for example, like brawls on the ice. Like if somebody did one of our guys, it's an automatic. Like if it's bad enough, there's a brawl on the ice. I remember played a game in Chicago and Jack O'Callahan was playing for Chicago. Came in and crushed Dave Maloney in the face.
Wow.
And man, that was a huge brawl. Everybody's out there. There was no hesitation of that. And I'm not saying the guys wouldn't do that now, but it's just that I think it's, and again, not in necessarily a bad way, because these guys are fantastic athletes, totally dedicated, totally professionals. It's just that things have changed. Culture's changed. So
well, yeah, but they took bench clearing brawls out. They can't do that. They can have line brawls. You can have 5-on-5 brawls.
Yeah.
You can have bench clear.
Well, we couldn't technically have clearing the benches either, so we did it.
But Kerry Fraser mentioned the reason why they got rid of that. And it makes sense is that they lost a TV contract. They said you can't have these melees on the ice. So they
I never thought of that before. Yeah, I was at a game with a guy as a hedge fund manager, and I think it was years ago. So I think the fighting was still going on more. There wasn't the change in the penalty rules, and he talked about he was at the game with the big problem with the Devils. They had 5-on-5, and he said it was terrible. I said I thought it was great.
Do you like that passion? Sure, but I mean, do you want that? I don't know.
Well, like you said it, listen, you go to Madison Square Garden, there's a brawl going on. Everybody in the building standing up cheering. So the difference is the TV. So like people can sit at home with their clicker and change channels now. So the brawl is going on and on forever. After a while, on TV, it doesn't relate. You can't see the physicalness of it. So
let me ask you this: did you guys? Yeah, we always talk about how when you guys are on a power play and the fans yell shoot, and everyone's like, just stop. We're trying to shoot. Yeah. But whenever there was a fight, the crowd would go crazy when they fell to the ice. I feel like
yeah. I think it's like an indicator. Whoever's on top was an indicator who won. That's who won the fight.
It's so stupid. Like I guess it's fans, but then you had fighters like Ty Domi was doing the belt thing, and like Nicky would pump up the crowd. People would get the crowd going. So maybe I don't know. Maybe it does.
Well, that is part of like the strategy for fighting back then. That was part of it. Like if you're on the road and you're winning the game, don't get into a fight because you're going to stir up the other team and the fans. Like there's a reason why to do it. Most guys were pretty strategic with that. Sometimes they just get mad, get a fight, because there's strategy to it. Yeah.
But you don't want to poke the sleeping bear, let him be. Yeah, totally. But you talked about some of your fights. We had Barrett Smith. We haven't had McSorley on yet. We have to get him on because
Mark would be a good guest. Yeah, man, I'll never forget that. I guess that was his rookie year, and I didn't know who he was. I knew he was a big, tough guy, big, strong guy, and everything. So it was pretty good scrap. I probably got the early part of it. He got the latter part of it. And then I see all the guys he's fighting after, and I'm going, like he fought everybody. There's nobody who wouldn't fight.
Yeah, and we've asked this question of a lot of fighters, and it's an important one. We said, did you like fighting? Yeah. And some of them did. A handful did like fighting.
What did Darren Langdon say? Did he say like?
He didn't care. He didn't care about anything. He did great.
Remember I asked him, so what have you done after the game? I went home.
Nothing. I went home. I think he opened up a bar, right? That was his deal.
Yeah, he opened up bar, Langer's bar. Yeah.
But he's like, He's like, did you have any damages in fighting? No. Did it bother you to fight? No. He's just like
he was great. He's a fantastic. It wasn't the best interview because he's just this good normal guy. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great because he is like a kind of like a sly newfie. Like he knows it and he kind of plays into it.
Oh, he gives it to me sometimes pretty good. Yeah,
that's great. Another newfie who we had who was great is also known as Ted Hitchcock on the hit show Shoresy. We had Terry Ryan on and he was excellent.
Yeah, we're going to get on to. I forgot to tell you this. We got to get Jim McKenzie on.
Yeah,
I was looking through my contact list. I remember I represented him right at the end of his career. So I've got to get you his contact. So
biggest wrench in history of hockey, right? Biggest wrench.
Remember talking to Dallas Drake about that? So they played together, and Jim McKenzie got traded to Phoenix when Dallas was there, and he's laughing because the guys have all heard the rumors about the size of his junk, and they couldn't wait for him to go in the shower. Everybody just bolted in the shower to take a look at it. They're all like giving him a high five, clapping. That's what we're weird. Yeah, you mentioned that before, how it's weird. But to us, like, we spent our whole lives, like, being making the locker room guys after games. Like,
wasn't it? You guys were super gay back in the 80s, no doubt.
Stop.
Come on, you guys tie each other's junk up and, peeing in cups, and it's super gay. And that's fine, it's bonding.
But you want to? I'm embarrassed by that stuff, to be honest with you. Like I think that was one of the stupidest things we ever did. Have hazing like that. Did nothing for anybody in the locker room. Didn't help the kid that got hazed. Didn't help us.
Well, I know you've mentioned on the show several times how it's gone, and Zdeno Chara is an example, but it does make no sense. Like these teams and these leaders just said, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do it. It's stupid. You also shouldn't make the rookies pay. I mean, the rookies are making league minimum, and there's guys on the Rangers making 8, 10, 12 million. Like they should be.
Well, I think when they first started doing that, the guys really piled on too. They were ordering bottles of champagne, Dom Perignon, and all this kind of stuff. I think that's kind of settled down now. The novelty over all that is kind of gone. And again, that doesn't do anything doesn't help the team. Like any kind of hazing, really. Then, like you said, Zdeno Chara got interviewed and talked about that. He said, "There's nothing. It doesn't help our team at all. Right. It's not helping our team. We're not doing it." So.
All right. So aside from yourself, because we know this is true, who was the biggest ball buster you played with?
Oh, there's a few.
Talk about him.
Greshner was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, he even dig pretty deep. He was funny. We saw a funny video. We were trying to find it. Phil Vespuccio had retired and was doing an interview at Rye Playland, their practice rink. And in Rye Playland, this is a gun balcony up top.
Yep. And
then the locker room's down below. I think he might have been interviewing Nicky too, Nicky Fatiu.
Okay.
And Gresh found one of those air horns.
No.
And and they filmed it and played it actually too on MSG. It was hilarious. And Gresh, a little bit of luck involved because he couldn't really see what they were doing, but he knew they were doing an interview there.
Right.
So Phil would start to talk and Gresh would hit the horn.
No.
And he'd keep on going, hitting the horn. So Phil would be forced to stop. So they'd wait for a few minutes thinking Gresh had gone away, and they'd start interviewing again, and Gresh would just hit the horn again. Phil started getting mad. He started yelling at Gresh. So the Gresh would wait for a little bit. He'd let the interview get going. He started blowing the horn again. It was, I think we've got to find a video because I've seen it. It was one of the funniest things. Both the fact that Gresh was able to time it properly, and Phil was starting to get mad too.
Yeah,
it's great.
So then he just kept going.
So Gresh is good with that. Like, he's the one that got Nicky's shirt the red and white checkered shirt that he liked so much. It looked like a tablecloth from an Italian restaurant. Oh, wow. So Gresh was hurt. Nicky's on the ice, and Gresh went to the trainers to get like the corner store, get the vase with the flour in it, salt, pepper shakers. So they had the whole thing set up in the middle of the locker room. And Nicky walks in at first. He sees the table, doesn't think too much of it, doesn't realize it's his shirt. And then he sees that it's his shirt. And we've talked about this before with Nicky, where he initially would get mad. And so he started chasing Gresh around. He grabbed his nose and pinched his nose and put like blood vessel in it. So his nose was all red and then bruised it. And Nicky settled down after a while. But
wait, can we back up? He grabbed Greshner's nose?
Yeah. And just squeezed it like really tight. Like his fingers around it, and squeezed it. And Gresh was screaming in pain. And I think it burst the blood vessel so that like it wasn't bleeding, but the skin was all
wow,
bruised. Yeah.
I remember reading an article as a kid. Frank Brown wrote a year-end article about how the Rangers were still light team because Nicky Fatiu was the biggest practical joker on the squad.
He was good.
Did he ever get into anything with anybody like for real on your team? Like, those practice flare-ups?
No, I don't believe he ever did. Like, he was very respectful that way. Like he was, a tough man. I don't think anybody wanted to mess with him either. So no, I don't think there's ever any times. And he did some stuff that was like, he went over the line a couple times. Well, maybe not over the line, right to the line with the practical jokes. Like the stuff, I can't remember who he did it with. You're in a hotel and there's a lobster tank down at the restaurant. So he went and grabbed the lobster, snuck into a guy's room and put the lobster on his chest while he was sleeping.
Oh no, who was it?
Yeah,
Who did you do it to? Oh, come on, Tom.
It might have been like a Pat Sheehan or something like that, or Pat Hickey, something like in that area. And he also tells the story about how they're in the hotel and Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nielsen were rooming together. So Nick went, I don't think did he pull the fire alarm? I don't think he did. I don't think he'd go that far. Anyways, he called their room pretending that he was working for the hotel. And he said, listen, there's a fire in the hotel. You've got to go downstairs. So Anders and Ulf were there. I think they may have had their underwear on, or they were naked. So they grabbed their trench coats because they told, listen, you got to get out. You got to get out of there now. So they go downstairs. And they're the only two standing outside. They got the trench coats on. And I think Nicky went down there and started laughing at him. And there's one of Anders or Ulf said to him, that was a funny yoke. Like he couldn't say jokes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he was good. Nicky, Gresh. We had some fun in that locker room. Who else? James Patrick. He was a good guest too, by the way.
He was a great guest. He's on twice.
Jane was kind of like a quieter kind of way. Like he could get some subtle little jabs in there. And he was that kind of respected guy. So when he did it, it was kind of like, that's coming from James Patrick. Like, you couldn't really believe that he was saying something like that.
Right.
But he was funny. He was a really good interview too. Him and Dave Maloney were
great. They're great. Dave Maloney's a very classy guy, almost like the old professor, like the...
Do you know who else was a good practical joker? Funny guy. So two guys out in L.A. Bernie Nichols. He has a really good sense of humor.
Episode 9.
And Larry Playfair, who we're going to get on as well. He returned my call the other day, and I got to get back to you. Man, he was funny. Like, again, he would do the practical jokes, and he'd come in the locker room before practice, and like a couple hours before it set, like he'd do silly little things, like he'd put a paper cup filled with water above somebody's stall, and then he'd run a skate lace all the way around the locker room, and then have it go down to his stall. And so he'd wait for the person to get in. Obviously, he'd tie it to the cup. He'd wait for the person to come in, then he'd pull the string, and the cup would fall down. The funny part was the work he put into it. It really wasn't. Sure. It was water.
I think it helps too that he was a tough guy, just like Nicky. Like they could get away with it because what are you going to do? You just square up with Larry Playfair.
Yeah. The other guy too, maybe not as funny, but Larry Robinson was the same way. Just a little kid in the locker room, just hilarious.
That's amazing because one of the greatest defensemen of all time. Totally. Yeah. Not you. I mean, Tom, not you. I mean, Larry Robinson, one of the greatest defensemen of all time.
Sorry.
Well, you're one of the defensemen of all time for sure.
Marty McSorley. So he would get on John Tonelli all the time. So John Tonelli had a teenage daughter, and Marty would always make.
Oh boy,
man, she's hot. And he did it to John because if John just let it go, it wouldn't be a big deal.
It seemed to say John was a little bit crotchety, right? Like a little bit.
Yeah. And
wondering.
John was he's a perfectionist. He still like this in his life. So before the game, he'd have 3 sticks taped up perfectly, all the same, and he'd put them by his stall in a certain position, and everyone would be exactly the same. So you looked at it, it's just like perfection. So before the game, we're just about to go on the ice. Marty picks his nose and wipes the sugar on Tonelli's stick. So now Marty's one of the toughest guys.
Why?
That's the whole point. There was no reason why. So Tonelli gets mad and jumps on Marty. And we're about to go on. We're all dressed and ready to go. And John jumps on Marty, and he's got him down on the floor of the locker room. And again, we're all sitting in our stalls watching this. Larry Robinson's there, Wayne Gretzky,
right?
All these legendary players, and we're looking like I don't think we did anything because we were just in shock. And I think Marty was even in shock too, thinking he never thought John would jump on him like that.
It's almost like when Ralphie beat up the kid in Christmas Story. Like in that rage.
Oh, funny. I'll tell you, the locker room in general was a funny place. That's one of the things that, I wish you could record some of the stuff. We couldn't record all the stuff.
And, that's interesting you say that, Tom, because I think every guest we've asked, like, what do you miss most? They always say being with the boys in the room.
Yeah. Oh, totally. There's some great times. Traveling with the team, the hotel stuff, like we told the story about the guys taking the furniture out of our room and putting it out in the hall.
Well, what do you miss the most? Because you don't like having anybody around you anymore. So, like, what do you...
I think I'm getting to be the cratchy old man now because I didn't think I was like that before. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, though. So some people, when I was married, got married, they would say, like,
which time?
Your husband never shut up. What's that?
I said, which time?
Yeah, right. Yeah. We had a couple of those. So the first one, they would say, like, did your husband ever shut up? And she'd go, he doesn't talk that much at home. When I would get to the rink, seriously, I think I talked so much at the rink, I didn't have anything left on it.
You bottled it all up, saving it for the rink.
But yeah, that is interesting, right? When you talk to the guys.
Well, what do you miss most?
To be honest with you, I don't miss that much. I loved playing. I think I've moved on from the game, and I don't mean that in a bad way. The game's been fantastic to me. I think it was maybe easier for me because I wasn't that big name player, and I was a good player. But so for me to move on to something else, and again, I've been fortunate to do all the stuff with True Good Life, podcasts, writing a book. I've done other things in my life. So it's just like, okay, that's a chapter in my life. It was fantastic. I worked hard to achieve it. It was a dream come true. But it's time to move on.
Yeah, and I think when you get down to it, we have a hockey theme, but we're telling people's stories, and that's the most important thing. It's not really, it's not X's and O's, and it's not about I'll throw out the number of goals and stuff, but it's about their stories and their life journey, and that's really what this gist of this show is.
The thing that really I don't know if you expected it. I sure did not. Talking to the guys about suicide or attempted suicide.
Yeah.
So we've had out of the 80 shows we've done now, we had 6 guys, right? That.
A lot of guys, and that's the ones that just said it. Some probably held that in too, because guys went to some dark places, and that's sad.
And you know what, too, I like is that they're willing to talk about this openly now, too, to help other people, and are very often helping young kids. Kelly Rudy opened up about his mental health issues. The one that really surprised me the most, I guess, because I didn't know it, was Mike Ellis.
Yeah, you were right there, too.
Yeah. You know what? I do feel bad because the person I am now would know how to help him, and I think he made me feel more comfortable to come to me for help. Just from me back then.
A 25-year-old you wouldn't know what to do,
Not even close. And I feel bad about that I wouldn't have. But yeah, imagine how he felt though, right? I talked to some other people. They found him sitting in the shower, just curled up like a ball.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's
yeah. Well, and he talked, and I've talked so glowingly about Herb Brooks and how much he meant to my career. But in that case with Mike Allison, it wasn't just his career.
It was torturous. Yeah, for his life. And that leads me to something, I often bring up how my favorite player was Mark Pavlich, and sadly, no one was able to help him, but why, on a different note, why don't you tell us like a good Pavlich story? Because obviously he was a great player for the Rangers, Olympian, scored 5 goals in a game for the Rangers. Like, give me a good Pav story.
Oh, there's a few. So Pav was famous for, we had the dress code, we had to wear a tie and a suit jacket to the games. So Pav would always, in regular, going to practice, he had a pair of corduroy pants and a plaid shirt. And in different colors, whatever, he didn't really care what he put with which. So to get dressed up for the game, he would wear that same plaid shirt and the corduroy pants, and then he just put a jacket on and a tie. So he'd had like 6 different colors, and he could care less. That was one of the biggest things about him. Like, we're in New York City, Rod Duguay, Ron Greshner, Barry Beck, all the nice suits and pretty women and all that kind of stuff. Pav would just flow in, his hair not combed at all, and just had the play. And he did it so much, it just wasn't a big deal to us anymore.
Right.
I guess I guess I can tell the story. So he was a Midwest kid, like smoke pot, I think. So he would, after practice, he loved singing Bob Dylan songs, and he played the guitar. So he'd go home after practice, sit in his apartment, and Ron wasn't getting in any trouble. He'd smoke pot and sing Bob Dylan songs. He'd come in at the next practice. He couldn't talk because he just burned his throat.
Oh wow!
From smoking pot all day.
Wow, but now they're using cannabis to help with
yes.
PTSD and with those type of head injuries.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good thing.
And that's the thing. I don't ever recall, I've done other interviews, I don't ever recall being concerned about his mental health, that there's something wrong with him. I just viewed that he was a Midwest kid that liked to hunt and fish, and care less about New York City, wanted to be graded as, I joke around about smoking pot, but he was the first guy on the ice to practice too. Like, he worked hard on his craft. I don't think that there's that, I dreamed all my life of playing in the National Hockey League. If I hadn't made it, I probably would have been devastated. But Pav, he wanted to play in the National Hockey League, but if it didn't work, he retired early.
Yeah, he really early.
He left the game. Yeah, actually, he asked me to represent him when he wanted to come back too, but it was a year or two, so nobody had any interest anymore.
Yeah, he came back for like 4 games, right?
Yeah. And even people would ask, was you worried that he wanted to live out in the woods in Minnesota? No, that was Pat. That's the way he wanted to live his life. He was funny. I think I had done something to him joking around. So he went out to my Jeep and opened up the hood and took off one of the Spark Plug caps. But again, me just plowing through, I didn't know that he did it. And finally, he came back to me a couple of days later. He says, and he came and fixed it right in front of me. And you didn't even notice. He knew my whole joke.
Right. And that, and obviously he was, for a little guy, he's probably 5'7".
Yeah.
He had no problem going to the corners, battling, taking on the bigger guys. And like I said, he was my favorite player. And rest in peace, Mark. And
I do remember when he scored. I do remember he scored 5 goals in one game, and everybody else is going nuts in the building. It's Mark Pavlich played in the 80 Olympic team, scoring 5 goals.
Yeah,
it was like, what's the big deal? Really, there was nothing. I was excited, Actually, recently saw a picture. I think Barry Beck posted a picture online of him holding the $5.
Yep.
And he kind of had the look on his face, like, okay, I'll do this, but I don't know what the big deal is.
Well, that leads to another point. They said when he got interviewed, he hated it. They said you would get sponsor gifts when you're on get interviewed back in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So they said they would give him fish equipment, or
yes,
he didn't do it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he got one on the road one time. He's walking through the airport with a fishing pole the whole time, and he didn't want to ship it or anything like that. He was going to carry it around.
So what were some of the cool things you got? Like, what happens with that? Does the PR guy go over to you and say, "Hey, we want to interview you now. Can you jump in there?"
A lot of it's like restaurant stuff. Like gift certificates to restaurants. I'll tell you the one funny story though, that one of the fun times we had, we didn't travel by charter most of the times. Hardly ever by charter. It was just a commercial flight. Wow. So they would give us a block of seats in the plane, so we're all together. But there's also all the other people. So now we come on the flight. So here's all these 25 guys that are pretty big, jacked up, and everything, got suits on, and we're just being goofballs too. Like little kids. Very often it's in the morning, hungover from the date night before. And it was a free for all. I still can't sleep on planes now because I did so much stuff to the players. If I fell asleep on the plane, they would have gotten terrible.
Sure.
Guys would take their shoes off, we grab their shoes while they're sleeping, and then he has to get off the plane. Doesn't know who's got the stuff. He knows one of us has his shoes. Right. He knows he's going to get them back. So then we go to this, obviously before 9/11, and then we go to the carousel and we put the shoes on the carousel. And all of a sudden, here comes the guy's shoes. And I remember all these other people around too. we'd cut off their ties, put shaving cream on their head, all that kind of stuff. We would, we had this game where $1 for the first bag. So everybody put in $1. Whoever's bag came out first, they get the pile of money. We would also do funny things where guys would go onto the carousel and pretend they're a statue just standing there. So we, go back around to the place where we put the bags on. So now this guy would come out and he's a statue just standing there staring. And other people were like, what is going on?
What if there was a 10-year-old fan who was very respectful on that flight with you and asked you guys for autographs? Would you be like, oh, guys, we tone it down. There's a kid here.
No, well, as far as making sure our language was, the guys are very respectful of kids. Yeah, that was one thing. Kids and women, being careful with our language was, in fact, if a guy would use some bad language, maybe he didn't know the kid was there or whatever.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys would really say to him, hey, be careful, this kid right there.
Gotcha.
And as far as kids that coming up and asking for autographs, I don't recall a guy ever turning down a kid for an autograph.
No, I think you turned it down in 1982 when I asked for an autograph. Actually, you didn't. I think I have one somewhere, actually. But it's funny. I think on the show I mentioned how my son's team played at the Garden and how my son got to sit on the bench with me because of Banjad.
Yeah.
Well, he did I guess it's called pregame buddies or bench buddies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They put like 4 or 5 kids on the bench before the game. It's excellent. It's incredible they do that.
Yeah.
And they gave them pucks and they fist bump and talked to them. And he had this great conversation with Banjad. So we just took a picture. We videoed it. We took a picture.
Right.
And then we went to the game the other night. I went with my roller hockey league, New York City roller hockey league. We got sweet. We had a great time. But my son came and he bought the bunch of pictures in case we saw someone get signed. And we were outside and mob with people around the car. And it turned out to be Zibanejad. So my son went over and talked to him. And he was like, oh, this is so cool. This is such a great picture. And he was such a really nice guy and took time to sign for everybody. And my son absolutely loved that. So I think, again, when you see guys are...
I think the big thing is most guys that come up playing national have had that same experience when they're a kid, when they get to meet somebody. I was lucky to meet Bobby Hull when I was a kid at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. And I'll never forget how nice he was to me. And I think I always remember that now when I get a chance to interact with the young boy. Young guy, it's awful. Toby, I think it is. Hope I've got his name right. We were in Long Island probably 5 or 6 years ago in an event. He's a tiny little goalie. So we got our picture taken together. I'm standing behind him. I'm kind of leaning down because he's so small. I think it's the first time he had the equipment on. So I've seen him probably 2 or 3 other times, and we keep getting the same picture taken as he's growing up. So he's always fired. His dad comes out to me, he goes, man, he just loves you.
Awesome. Keep doing it, man.
Yeah, totally.
I told the story. I bumped into you at a house bar event, and I had my son with me. And I said, "Hey, is your buddy Ledge's Ledge is a nickname they gave you when you were young?" I said, "This is Ledge is his favorite player," and Thomas goes, well, he's not my favorite player. And he's like, he's up there. But
Thomas, your son's good. All 3 of your kids are good. They make fun of me. They do imitations of me. I mean, so it's really good.
It's lovingly, though. It's not. It's very respectful and lovingly.
Eddie Hosmer was a good interview. I like the fact that he broke some news there. Like he went back, talked about the brawl they had in, 87 against the Flyers?
Yeah, with the Canadians and the Flyers. And he was very worried about breaking that news. But I think the statute of limitations has passed. I think he's okay.
Yeah. So the story is, you guys have seen it or listened to it on the show, but he didn't had too many. It was too many. He could just many wanted for warm-ups. He had more guys warm ups.
30 guys in warm up.
Yeah. So he planned that whole thing. He wanted to get it going.
And they weren't just regular extra guys. They were all brawlers, all of them.
That's funny stuff. It's funny too. Chris Nyland does his podcast. What's it called? Bare Knuckles.
Bare Knuckles.
Bare Knuckles.
Raw Knuckles. Raw Knuckles.
Raw Knuckles. He had Dave Brown on. They fought a few times. They fought in that brawl.
Sure.
He had Dave Brown on the show. It's just interesting to see 2 guys that fought like that.
That's right. I forgot to shout out Knuckles. He was on our show early on too, and he's a great guest, great story. He's real open and honest with his addiction and his problems too, and his upbringing. Real great story. Great guy too.
You know who I wish we could have had on before he passed was Clark Gillies.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah,
what a great guy he was. Unbelievable. We did that other show, the live show. I'm talking to
one.
And it's funny because Clark was watching it on Facebook, and all of a sudden he contacts me. And I was thinking, what the heck does Clark Gillies want with me? And he was like a little kid. He says, Tommy, can I come on?
That's awesome.
And so we got to be pretty, not really close friendly before he passed. So great man. Did a lot in the community too. They named the rink out there where he lives after him, I think.
In Long Island, yeah, they did. And a great tribute. I mean, obviously he's a guy who was a Hall of Famer, a tough guy, stood up for his teammates, won all those cups, Ranger nemesis. That old God, man. I go back to obviously Burn You More, you play, but as a kid, that was my wheelhouse. And man, they beat you guys every year, and it was so heartbreaking.
Tell you that 84 series, I still look back. That was the best team of the Rangers I think I played on. And Gillies even said so when we did the show that if we had won that series, he thought we could have won the Stanley Cup. But he said that, I was like, oh, made it even worse. And it was a compliment, but it was even worse because we should have won that series in Game 4 or back at the Garden.
Yeah, you heard us there, and I want to shout out. I'm going to give a fan's perspective. We were watching that game in New Jersey, and it's this drive for 5, and Pav takes that shot. Maloney ties it up with 39 seconds left on that high stick, and then I'm watching, and we call my friend Ed Borowski, who now lives in L.A., listens to the show all the time. Thanks, Ed, and the whole community. Ed Borowski, cruiser. So
Cruiser, all right.
So we call him, and we're like, hey, we got you, F you. And then Morrow scores, and he called back, and he's like, yeah, hey, F you guys. And my brother and I were crying. And
we had so many chances to win that game, too. Like, didn't you have Burke, Mikko Lennon, and all good chances, yeah?
And we talked about the play where Tonelli, I think he grabs Lennon, and then he trips Larry Patey on the same play, no penalty.
I know. That's the way it was back then, especially in an overtime game. They're not going to call anything. Yeah.
And you heard. But speaking of LA, we had Daryl Evans on and Bernie Nichols and Glenn Haley. We got some good fans from LA too. We have Matt Hankin, who was a big fan, and Dan Hopper, who are also big fans of the show. LA listeners.
Hops. I bet they call him Hops. Right?
They call him Hop. Yeah, big guy. He played the BCHL hockey player. Great family. Yep, they're listeners. We have Coach Nate Brown of Minnesota, who listens all the time. Yeah. Doesn't want to hear cooking tips. Only wants to hear us talk about goalies and football. Yeah. Will you?
Oh, my turkey that I make this year was unbelievable.
Well, there you go. Here you go, Coach Nate. Here it comes.
Yeah, the gravy was the best. So I really nailed down the gravy. So you put like capers, celery, onion, and garlic in the roasting pan underneath the turkey. So all the drippings get in there. You look like you're bored. Like you're leaning on.
No, the truth is, I'm drinking this sparkling water, and I'm getting burped so loud.
Oh, let it rip. I haven't heard you burp.
It's not there yet, though.
Oh, okay.
But I can feel it, so I keep moving. Sorry.
So then you put all those things in the blender after they're cooked. It was a couple of tablespoons of flour. Pour that back in to the pan and with some chicken stock. Oh my Lord, just heaven.
Sounds good. To a vegetarian, it sounds like it's okay.
Yeah, but because it's all vegetables. Pretty healthy.
Well, except for the turkey and the chicken stock and whatever else you put in there.
Well, the chicken stock, though, yes, it's got chicken in it, but it's also got a lot of vegetables in there too.
Yeah, I'll just do it. I do ravioli at the holidays. That's what I do. Well, Christine cooks turkey all the time, but I don't eat it.
Christine's a wonderful wife.
My wonderful wife. She's a listener of the show sometimes, reluctantly. She listens. She's a big fan. She's a big Laidlaw fan.
So, okay. So we had the funniest guest. Who we decided who the funniest was? It was.
I think Lakota was really good. I think he was really funny.
Yeah, he's a good storyteller.
I did like Dave Silk. What a great guest. Good reunion you and him had. Also, he's your buddy, but I always gauge how the people are, like what kind of people they are, how they treat me, because they didn't play with them. And he was one of the best. And he just sent us lobster for Christmas. So thanks there, Dave Silk.
Lobsters are excellent, yeah. Yeah, he's funny. I know I've told us too. I made a mistake with him because I got on him about 2 days before the show. Yeah. And we started telling those stories, and we were crying, laughing with some of the stupid things we did. So it kind of ruined it. That wasn't ruined it, but
no, not at all.
We better. But some of us, like we told a story about putting all the food on the kitchen floor and then running it away.
Oh, but you didn't tell the story that I want to hear and the fans want to hear. I coach at Sportorama, and when I mentioned Sportorama to you, the first time we started talking, you said, "Oh yeah, Dave Silk and I, blah 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 at Sportorama." And I said, "Let's tell that story," and it hasn't been told yet.
We can't. That's an X-rated story. You can't tell that on the show.
We're gonna have to hear that story soon. It's gonna get out there for you. Maybe in the second year of the show.
Yeah. Oh God, what a night that was. Well,
let's see. Who else can
we were crying though. That's just from some stuff. Actually, this fun stuff for me. Like getting guys like Mike Allison on and Dave Silk, guys I spent a lot of time playing with them, and to think about the old stories we had.
They were both great, and we've had some guests on who we tried, and they had some technological challenges. Mike Allison he was talking to us with generator power.
Yeah, that's right.
One point the generator crapped the bed.
How about Rick Middleton when he told the story about the strip joint?
He was great. He was funny too, very dry, but very, very funny.
You were good that day too because he wasn't gonna. He started to tell the stripper story, and then he was going to stop, and then you jumped on it right away. No, you got to tell it. You got to tell it. I think he wanted to tell it.
No, I think a little bit, but he was awesome, man. He was great, and we were lucky enough to have. I think some of the shows have been like a show like this, like a wrap up show. Maybe we've had 77 guests, 78 guests, and they've been great. I love doing this. We got a great. I mean, if you look at our team, we have like 2 all-star teams worth of guests.
That's right, guys. We got some more coming up too. We're getting more and more in touch with the alumni associations from around the league, so they'll give us access to all the players. So we're getting them like the Ed Balfours and people like that. So.
Yeah, and we've had great fans since day one. We have Robbie Carr and Eddie Carr, friends of mine. Mike Azeron, who did our logo and our design. Mike Fataco, who's the voice in the beginning of the show.
Fataka.
Mike Fataco. You remember you made his uncle somehow you were someone's favorite player. And remember, he
Isn't
said,
it amazing that I get that's really telling the truth? The guy really was their favorite.
yes, absolutely, sure.
I played in a charity game where a guy wanted to sit right beside me in the charity game too. He brought his jersey from when he was a kid, a small kid, and it was a Laidlaw jersey. It was a tiny little jersey.
No,
Yeah,
you signed it for him, right?
yeah, I've got a picture taken too. I'll show you. It's pretty cute.
Please show me. We'll put that up online. That's awesome.
You know what it is? It really is. I think more as you've gotten older to think that you made a difference in kids' lives just by the way, shooting the way you played. There's my burp there.
There it is. You got yours out. I'm still working on it. Speaking of people making a difference, Jeff Olson in New York City. He's a great hockey player. He's a coach at
Ole.
Jeff Olson. Yeah, I don't think anyone calls him Ole, but he listens to every show, and he's like, "When I don't hear my name on there, I don't hear my name on there."
Jeff. All right, Jeff.
Real good player. He's coached the Skyliners out at the what do they call it? The City Ice in Long Island City. You been to that one? It's like the Bubble.
Oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Long Island City. Yeah, it's a nice one. You know, as a kid, I used to play at the Nick Fertitta rink in Staten Island. There was a bubble on, and I think it was in New Dorp, Staten Island.
Did you know all the pucks are square there?
Why is that?
Well, Nicky's in there. He's Nicky Stickales. We were at an alumni meeting a few years ago, and I'm sitting right beside Nicky too. And they're talking about some of the places that Rick Nadeau, when he used to be with the Rangers, alumni meeting. And good man Rick Nadeau is as well. Or is it NATO? I think he goes by NATO. But so he's talking to some of the facilities, and Nicky goes, "Oh, I've been to that one." So I piped in and says, "Well, is that why all the pucks are square there?" And at first, everybody kind of paused and they had kind of think about it. And they're going, "I can't believe he said that." He put me in a headlock during the meeting.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
It still looked like he could probably throw. But he had this rink, I guess it was just named after him, or he was involved in it in Staten Island. And then one day they're like, well, the season's canceled because the hurricane came and the bubble just blew into the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And that was it for that rink.
So the bubble
New Dorp
up there.
New Dorp, Staten Island. But
we call Nicky Pie Face too.
When he was throwing pucks to the blue seats, that's just very mean, Tom. When he was throwing those pucks into the blue seats, were you guys like, "Nick, come on, what are you doing, man? Make us look."
You know what? I was wondering about that sometimes, but people going into the rink would say to him, "Nicky, this section I'm in there. Please throw me pucks." So it was like once he started doing it, it was. You don't think it really amazed me? Now they've got the big mesh up behind the nets. But man, we had you get 20, 25 pucks out on the ice. The guys are firing them off the crossbar. I'm surprised more people didn't get hit.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Well, if you remember, so Nick, and anyone who's old enough to remember this, like it was a thrill when at the end of warm-ups, he'd get the pucks, and if he reached the blue seats, people would go bananas. The crowd would go crazy, you know. And I always wanted to get him to throw me a puck, and then one day he just flipped one over the glass to me, and I was like the kid.
I told the story, but the Nick Fertitta story with Dave Maloney and I on the ice, and Herb Burke's coaching.
He did.
I have told the story. Oh man, it's funny. Those are the things like when I get a guy like Dave Maloney on, we start thinking about those moments. Like Dave, I got on the ice, and Dave's the older player because Herb didn't want us to pass to Nicky at the red line because he'd now circle back, especially the crowd.
Winded up to get the speed up, right?
Oh yeah, the crowd's going nuts and everything. Herb's on the bench, just kicking and screaming, he's yelling, "No, no, no!" Yeah. So he was saying to us, "Don't pass the puck up to Nicky anymore." So we go on the ice. Dave, are we not going to pass to Nicky? Dave goes, "Oh yeah, we are." So we passed it up to him. Oh God, it's so funny. Watch.
Obviously, everybody loved Fertitta. Like he was big fan favorite. We're trying to get him on the show. He's having some technological issues too, but we'll get him because people want to hear from him, and we'll just be a little persistent.
The other show we did before the live one, his version was or episode was probably I think the most popular one we did. There's like 10,000 people that listened to it.
Wow, yeah, our most popular episode is still Pierre LaRouche, our first one. I think that's how I like my guest. Pierre.
You know, another one I thought was good was Clint Malarchuk.
He's great.
Sad way, like his story. You get this throat slash, and when we asked him like, "What were you thinking about when you're on the ice after you get throat slash?" He just, matter of fact, he goes, "Death."
Yeah, don't die. Boy, he said, "Don't die in front of mom on TV."
Yeah, I know.
And so, I mean, God, that's so heavy. You know, like that's.
And I couldn't. He was having fun with it too because he's told the story. So he talked about trying to shoot himself, or he did shoot himself. It just didn't work. And I'm sitting there going, "Should I say it or should I say it?" And this is not say it. And I couldn't help myself because again, he was laughing anyway too. So I said, "You're a bad shot."
Yeah. Well, I don't think I don't feel bad when he's a horse dentist, which is incredible. And I said, how did they do it to Tom's teeth? Because
oh God, Corey Hirsch was good too. I liked him very different guy. He's given back a lot. Even we talked about him being funny, but Richie Pilon, his show was very touching too, talking about his attempted suicide and how he told his son in front of everybody.
Yeah, imagine that, and giving a speech in front of a whole crowd, and his son's not on the side. He said, "Hey, buddy, listen, I did some things here. That's pretty heavy, man." Yeah,
everybody go listen to the episode. It's fantastic. It's really great in that he talks very openly about his drug addiction, and how he felt when he went to attempt suicide. Now how he's helping other people. And same thing, he uses horses to
Oh yeah, equine therapy, which is awesome. That's part of the ranch he does. I forgot what it's called. I forgot the name of the ranch, but he's got that ranch with Mark Pavich's sister.
Yeah.
Helps with that, and they get athletes there, and they kind of help them, overcome. These
Jason
challenges.
Podolin was probably the most intelligent guy we've had on. He
Also,
uses academia.
which means of the academic world. And I just got a text from my brother. He's like, "Hey, the Podolin episode was great." I said, "It's Podolon." So,
It's Podolin.
but my brother Damon in the Carolinas, him and his hockey team, they're big listeners. They love the show. So thanks for that, guys.
Yeah, Podolin's worth the one to listen to. Very educational. Talking about his series with young kids with coaches, how to deal with coaches and build a relationship with them. I never really looked at it that way, but it's pretty, especially nowadays. The culture's changed a little bit.
Then you absolutely have to. Things have definitely changed. That those, my way or the highway days are over. These kids have some power in that. These programs need there's a lot to compete with, so they need these players and the players stick around because it's money for the organization.
So who did we have that attempted suicide? So it was Malarchuk, Hirsch, Pilon,
Mike Allison. There's a few more if we go back. I have to look.
But I think that would be the most, when we started this whole thing, I would think both the number of guys that had attempted, just the fact that suicide at all, that would be the biggest surprise for me. I did not anticipate that was going to happen, and how good they are talking about it now to help other people.
Yeah, we from this side, the fan side of it, we just think, especially when we're kids, we think you guys are like these superheroes. Like you guys can do no wrong, and then in reality is you guys are fucked up like everybody else is. Maybe even more so.
That's probably the biggest surprise for you, right? That you really never been around. Yeah. Sometimes, especially early when we started doing the show, we get off, and I'm so used to hearing all this stuff. We get up the show, Tom, you're just shaking your head like, I can't believe it.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't want you guys to be, but I also worked in TV in that industry. Actors are pretty similar to you guys in that they're pampered, and they also have a lot of issues, so. Yeah. But
our issues are, again, we were blessed to play, but you kind of give up. Well, no, you shouldn't give up. You're treated differently your whole life because you're this good little hockey player. So you get away with things you should not get away with.
Yep.
And then now that just continues on into your adult life. And then all of a sudden now you retire at 30 or 35 years old. And everybody else now has gone to school, they're starting their career, their families and all that. Now all of a sudden you're going out in the world not having a clue how screwed up you are, what a screwed up life you had. Now all of a sudden you got to adjust all that. So.
And that's the gist of the show is right there. It's like the change from this.
We call that a segue, don't we?
It's almost a good way to go into a wrap here. Like we could wrap this up on that. That is a segue. Look at you. You're like a burgeoning Jason Podolin.
Yeah, we're gonna have this in the can.
Wow, man! Once we get it cut and we sweeten it, we'll be good.
Oh, nice! I'm getting excited here.
There, I can see. Anyway, what a year! Thank you everyone for being part of this journey, for listening to these shows. We hope to bring you lots more. We hope that we ask you to just please like it, share it, download it, listen to it, leave us a review on Apple, tell your friends, and just, email us at fullchangepodcast@gmail.com.
Yep, we're getting bigger and bigger. Have a fantastic New Year's. All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.
Hey, Full Change listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at fullchangepodcast@gmail.com with suggestions, ideas, stories about Tom, anything you want to hear, any guests you want to see. We'd love to hear your feedback. We know you're from all over the world, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. And if it's in Polish or Hungarian, Tom can translate.
Absolutely.